welcome to my kitchen. I'm Steve, and on this episode of Cooking with Love, I'm going to be making a rosemary and tomato focaccia. A focaccia is an Italian version of a flatbread. It has a crispy crust and is usually full of flavor. It's liberally sprinkled with salt. It can be enjoyed just as is as a snack, or you can serve it up with salami or prosciutto, make it into a sandwich. It's a very delicious bread. Now, this bread is one of the recipes that we're making with our universal dough recipe. If you haven't seen our video on how to make the universal dough recipe, I'll include a link below. All right, let's get started. The ingredients we need to make the focaccia bread is one universal dough recipe. Now, I made this 4 days ago. It's been rising slowly in the refrigerator. I took it out about a half hour ago to come to room temperature. For toppings on this bread, we're going to be using cherry tomatoes that I'll slice in half. We have some dried rosemary, some sea salt, and olive oil. Now, the universal dough recipe does not have any olive oil in the dough. Focaccia needs olive oil in the dough. So our first step is going to be to knead this dough and get some olive oil incorporated. If you know you're making focaccia bread, you can just go ahead and add the olive oil at the point that you're adding the water to the flour, and that'll save you this step. All right, let's put this together. Our first step is that we're going to add a tablespoon of olive oil on top of the dough. And we're going to remove it from the bowl. And I'm just going to work the olive oil into the dough. It'll make it easier for it to release. We're going to flatten this out. And now I'm going to add some rosemary. And we're going to start folding this like a letter. And this allows us to work the rosemary and the dough and the olive oil into the dough. I'm flattening it out again. Then fold it. Flatten it. And fold it. And I'm turning it 90 degrees with each fold. And I'm just going to continue to work this until I have all the rosemary and olive oil worked into the dough. Now I've worked the rosemary and the olive oil into the dough. I'm going to place it into our baking tray. Here I have a 10 by 13 lasagna tray. You can use whatever you have, a 9 by 12 or whatever's convenient. You want to make sure it has a little bit of depth. I'm going to cover the bottom of the tray with olive oil. And we're going to place the dough. And we're going to start to spread it out. Now the dough is very elastic and it's going to resist stretching. Spread it out the best you can. It's going to go through a couple rises. So the first thing we're going to do is put this into a warm place and let it rise again. It'll be easier to manipulate after the dough rests. And we're going to continue to spread it out until we get the entire bottom of the tray filled with dough. We've let our dough rise for about 15 minutes now in a warm place. It should be more relaxed, and we're going to go ahead and stretch it out again. And we're going to put it back into the warm place for another 15 minutes. And we want to continue stretching this until we cover the entire bottom of the pan. This is the third time that I'm stretching out the dough, and you can see it's almost right to the edges now. And I'm just going to add a little more olive oil to the surface. And I'm going to place it back in the warm place. And we're going to let this rise for about an hour. Our dough has been rising for about an hour. I made sure that the surface was coated with olive oil. And now just using my fingers, I'm going to create some dimples in the surface of the dough. And I'm pressing all the way down to the bottom of the pan. Now we're going to add our toppings. First, I'm going to use a little bit of rosemary, extra rosemary. And now I'm going to add some sea salt. It's going to be about a teaspoon total. And now I have cherry tomatoes that I've sliced in half, and we're going to place these on our bread. Now this is going to go back again to a warm place to rise for about another hour. In the meantime, I'm going to put my pizza steel on the top shelf of the oven, and we're going to preheat the oven and the steel to 450 degrees. Our focaccia bread has risen again for another hour. It's ready to go into the oven. It bakes for 25 to 30 minutes. And the oven is preheated to 450 degrees. Our focaccia bread has baked for about 25 minutes. As you can see, the crust is golden brown. My wife is joining me for the taste test.
Thank you.
And you can see all the little air pockets in the dough. It's risen very nicely.
It looks delicious. I can't wait to taste it. Delicious.
The crust is crisp. The inside is very soft. The rosemary, tomato, and salt are great flavors for focaccia. Of course, you can use any toppings you like on this. Common ones are mushrooms, onions, potatoes. You can use various meats. This is a great bread to serve alongside some Italian meats like prosciutto or salamis or gabagool. It makes it a complete meal. We typically use this for an appetizer. With different toppings. We usually make one or two different types of toppings on it, and people really seem to like it a lot.
Yeah, it definitely makes a great appetizer.
Yeah. Now, you could also use 2 pieces of this and make a sandwich. It's really very versatile. It's only limited by your imagination. Now, hopefully you can taste the love it was cooked with.
Let's see. Oh, we tasted it already.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you on the next episode of Cooking with Love.